Yeah, and have everybody introduce themselves. They've got name tags though. So, Doc.
Hello, everybody. Doc Sheldon here of Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central.
Terry.
Terry Van Horn, retired.
Steve.
Steve Grenzer with Steam Driven Media.
And I'm Bill Slosky, the author of SEO by the Sea and the director of SEO research at Go Fish Digital. And my screen is flickering strangely. They've had some quirks to tweak and fix at StreamYard, don't they?
Well, it can't be any worse than Google. They had more than quirks.
Their features.
Yeah, they had those features that seem to pop up once in a while.
Yep.
They cycle.
I can start off. We got a interesting post in one of the groups on Facebook. One of the guys wanted to know what percentage of their client's SEO budget you use for paid links. And that started an interesting discussion. And some guys are spending 60 or 70% of the SEO budget that they're getting from clients to buy links still and swear by it and say it's the only way to compete in certain niches, which that part I agree with. There are some niches where if you're not buying links, you're not going to compete. But this is like when I just said, mostly we do content, we don't worry about links anymore. I was an outlier. There's very few people that do that still, which surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because if you do content, you got to do SEO the right way, and most people don't know how to do that now. They're still doing it like Google was still the same search engine it was in 2003.
People have published case studies saying that if you do paid search, it increases the number of clicks that you get from your organic results too, if you have high-ranking organic results.
Well, and this I can agree with, just from anecdotal evidence. If I do a search and I see somebody's ad and their natural listing is like in the top 3, I don't click the ad. But that's more because I'm in paid traffic and I know that click's going to cost them money. And if I'm going to go there anyway, I won't charge them. I won't have them incur a cost to have me come visit. Now, if I'm doing competitor research or whatever, I might click the ad.
Several times.
Yeah, I've always believed that when you have a paid ad in the top with a natural listing as well, it reinforces your listing because people see must be a legitimate company if they're also in the paid results.
Well, and the other question too is, how many casual users really even recognize the fact that that's an ad versus an organic result? They're just going to ping on whatever they see that catches their attention.
I think more and more users do. No.
And about the time they start to recognize that it's an ad, Google changes how they market as an ad.
That's true too, but
they'll just start switching from Arial to Calibri, and that'll be their announcement.
But that's how you know that it does affect it because Google will go out of it. Google did some things that I always thought were kind of shady a few years back with AdWords. So
kind of shady.
If
we get our site in trouble.
Yeah. Okay.
They're doing some things now that make the ads look like organic results, like site links for ads.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard when you see them in search results. It's kind of hard to tell that they're not organic results, like the site links you're used to seeing from organic results.
Yep.
Yeah, they've also made it hard to read the part that says sponsored.
Yeah.
Like it's so faint you can barely see it.
They have a little logo ad, the word ad.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
ad,
Yeah.
Remember, it needs to be tinged yellow, except really light yellow, so it was kind of hard to tell that they were ads too.
Yeah, you mean when they had a faint background color to that block for that result of that ad, and it was almost impossible to see it.
Yeah.
Even when you were looking for it. I think they probably got slapped for that, and that's why they changed that. But
Or they knew they were about to get slapped.
they certainly should have been. You know, that was entirely too subtle.
Well, the FTC sent a letter out to all the search engines in the early 2000s saying, you got to let people know their ads, otherwise we're going to do something really harsh. And
Yeah.
then proceeded to do nothing.
I remember the first time that all the search engines kind of got pulled up into I don't know how to explain it, but it was like a panel. I think Dan Thies was part of that as well. And there was all the search engines that were putting results and listings and ads together. And it was before the government did anything. That was back, probably would have been just after the first engine came out. What was it called? I forget. Yahoo ended up buying it, I think.
Alta Vista?
Oh, no. It was a strictly paid search entity.
Itomi?
Nope, that was first submissions. What was it called?
GoTo?
Yeah. Pardon me?
GoTo? GoTo was one of the first paid.
GoTo, yeah, that was one of them. And then they changed their name after Yahoo bought them. That was probably the worst ad platform I've seen in a long time.
Overture?
It was only up for a little while, and then Yahoo got out of the paid search business when it failed. Oh, I forget the name.
Didn't they change it to Overture?
Overture, that's it, right. And then Overture did a big update. I ran ads on it for 2 days, asked for all my money back because they drained a week's budget in a day.
Wow.
And it just didn't work. I shut it all off. And Overture went out of business within 2 months.
Yeah. There were some cool tools built into Overture, but that was kind of sad to see some of them go away.
Yeah. Well, Yahoo touched it, so what happens. Anything there's the Midas touch, and then there's the Yahoo touch. And the Yahoo touch turns everything to poo-poo.
Some of the sites that Yahoo purchased weren't too terrible. Flickr worked really well for a long time.
Yeah, until they closed it down, didn't they?
It's still running.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah, it's still up.
Yeah.
It just, sites like Google Photos were that much better. A lot of people left Flickr to go to Google Photos.
For that, you'll need to unlock your phone.
And Google Plus had a popular photography community too. Still think they gave up too early on Google Plus.
Google Plus? Oh, yeah, for
I
sure.
agree.
Well, that has more to do with the fact they didn't know what they were doing with it to begin with.
Yeah, I think they realized they didn't really know what to do with it. That I don't know. I think they were just trying to gather information. And then once they had gathered all that information, they said, well, what are we going to do with it now? And it was, well, let's just close it down.
That was always my thought too. It was just an information harvester, and it did a fantastic job.
Just like Group 411 was.
Much more than 411, I think.
To collect voice data information. And it ran for 5 years for free. And they collected all the voice data information they needed. And they one day decided, we're closing down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they used a lot of that in voice training and doing kind of work with voice, right? Voice search.
They ran a Google blog post about what type of information they had collected from Google 411. And they said they were going to use it that way, which was really reasonable.
Yeah, I remember one of the guys who worked on the project saying it was a really smart idea because they got a lot of data about that kind of service, right?
Yeah.
And gave them a lot of live data to work with for figuring out voice search.
They wanted to understand people's accents,
right?
And how they talk and how they typically ask questions about different types of things. And running it for 5 years gave them lots of chance to collect that information.
Yep, that's come a long way. So I remember the first voice program that I looked at, and it was crap. Like I gave up on it pretty quick.
I beta tested Dragon when it first came out, where you could actually speak to your computer and it would supposedly type. And I could read a paragraph and try to read it after the fact. And it wasn't, even knowing what the paragraph was about, it was unrecognizable. Now, about 12 years down the road, I saw it again, and I went ahead and I ended up paying for it. It cost me, pennies. I think it was like $30 or something. And it really works pretty well now. Once it learns you and your inflections and accents, it's almost edit free.
Yeah, even Cortana I messed around with it a little bit, and even it is really, really good.
Yep.
I tried buying Dragon NaturallySpeaking, and it wouldn't work. It was my computer was a 64-bit computer, which to them meant it was extremely advanced. To me, it meant I bought cheap from a AMD brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I pointed out, I brought it back to Staples where I bought it and said, this won't work on my computer. It's only, it's not 64-bit. They said, you have an advanced computer. I said, you have all AMD computers on your showroom store right now for sale.
Yep.
And they're all base 64. They're not advanced. Give me my money back. They were. They didn't have a Pentium computer on the storefront for sale. They were all AMD. And they're all 64-bit.
Yep.
Now that's why I like going to Best Buy. They never argue. Staples always argues.
Yeah. Drives me nuts when I go to one of those places and all I can find is Hewlett Packards, which I wouldn't have one as a gift. Might as well try to give me a Compaq.
That's all I've ran is Compaq and HP for the last probably 5 years, 6 years.
Packard Bell, and Gateway. I
And
love the Gateway.
Vio. Yeah. Gateway wasn't a bad system, and Vio wasn't a bad system. It's just they got it out there, they got it working, and then they stopped upgrading. They got,
I made a lot
new
of
shiny.
money. I made a lot of money back in the hardware days thanks to Packard Bell and Gateway.
Mhm. Fixing them?
Oh yeah, people would buy them, and 3 months later they'd want to upgrade them, and it's like, oh, this is not upgradable. This is a dead horse. And even when we tried to upgrade them, it was sometimes quite the adventure.
Okay,
Last
so
cop.
I'm going to interrupt this important broadcast for a message, and
Yeah.
that is happy birthday to Ammon Johns, because the Bogus Hangout is his idea, and I just love it. It's like just get together and talk about things with no agenda. And
But thank you. So,
Happy birthday, Ammon.
happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
We miss you.
You get to buy the first round, Mr. Johns.
What the fruit and fiber?
So what else new happened this week?
so I wrote a blog post about universal search being updated at Google. They came out with a new patent and they said, we're going to make it so that the most relevant category is first, and the second most relevant category that has less search results will be second, which made a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
And then I started looking at all the universal search result categories. And you perform a search, they're no longer just limited to local news, videos, images, and web results. They're also people also search related entities.
Hmm.
Top stories, which is pretty much news still.
Yeah. Trending probably in there.
I'm not sure I've seen trending, but
It does. It does still make a certain amount of sense, though, because it gives the user the opportunity to make a relatively quick choice. And although you would think that rather than having to click through to a site, it would be more productive if they could click through to a category, do a search within results type thing, like InfoSeek used to have that sort of thing, where they didn't have to click to a site and then go back in order to further explore that category.
Well, it's like Yahoo used to have a feature on their search where they had little sliders. So you could push the slider towards more e-commerce or more research type stuff. And you could fine tune your search right there on the fly. And I love that. I always wondered why that wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap, I'm doing my research. Get that buy out of here.
somebody ran a feature that was a search within results.
That was InfoSeek.
InfoSeek?
I loved it. Yeah, I was down at the bottom of the page. I loved that feature, and I don't understand why no other search engine has ever come out with something like that.
Because they got a patent on it and they want a freak ton of money on it for it.
That could be it. But how the hell do you patent something? That should not be patentable.
You would think.
It's property. It's intellectual property. Of course, it's patentable.
So if that was like in 2001 through 2003 or 2004, it'll expire halfway through the next decade.
Yeah, that was a very, very handy feature, though.
There were every one of the search engines that went out of business. Their patents were sold to other search companies.
Yeah.
Fast was one. Yahoo bought just for its patents.
Yeah, who bought Alta Vista for their patents too?
Yeah.
And
But
that's
they didn't
why
get my
they didn't what?
they didn't get my fake Alta Vista Twitter account that I created when they got shut down. Every time Google did something stupid, I got to do a tweet about it and go, "Yeah, well, you don't have that problem with our search engine."
Yeah, I remember that.
That was fun. I miss
It's still
doing
there.
that.
So one of my favorites was Tioma, which is, I guess, long gone too.
Oh yeah.
Years ago, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that just because search engines put a patent on something, it doesn't mean they're using it. It means they're protecting so somebody else can't use it.
Well, that's what. Yeah, exactly. That's. I think probably something approaching half or the majority of patents are not so that we can develop it, so that we can make sure that our competitors can't develop it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I hate what patents have become.
Well, they've bastardized it because they're allowing patents on things that should not be patentable. It's like coming out. Okay, I'm going to be a publishing company. I'm going to patent a table of contents as intellectual property so that nobody else can put a table of contents in the front of their book.
I think search engines are like car companies. How many cars do you see with steering wheels that aren't round? Somebody probably patented a round steering wheel, but they all have round steering wheels. If somebody patents a good idea at Google, somebody at Microsoft says that's a good idea. Let's reword that and file it.
Well, one of the biggest patents that come under that could close down the internet if they wanted was Amazon owns a patent on two-click shopping carts, and they just don't press it, right? They just say,
The
other
one
people
click,
do it.
one-click shopping, that one expired like 2 or 3 years ago.
Right, but even when they had it, they didn't really enforce it. They just had it so that nobody could enforce it against them, possibly.
Possibly, right.
Who was that just a few weeks ago went and applied for a trademark on Taco Tuesday? Everybody gave him a bunch. One of the basketball players, I think it was like LeBron James or somebody, and everybody's giving him a hard time about it. And he's like, "No, I did this so nobody could, because now we have it documented that this is not trademarkable. Now nobody can do it. You're welcome."
Taco John has Taco Tuesday as trademark.
You're welcome. Shut up.
So somebody already beat him to it.
But I think the reason they applied for it was to get that struck down. Because unless somebody challenges it, they'll give you a trademark on anything. And unless somebody actively, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I think you're right, Steve, where a patent is, they'll patent anything. You just have to be able to back it in court. Or do they not accept every patent?
Well, was it the guy in Australia that got a patent on the wheel to prove that the system was broken?
Yep.
And it didn't take long for them to shoot it down. But the fact that it was granted to begin with was an obvious indicator that there's an issue with the system. They just don't have enough. The problem is the patent people don't have enough money, time, or trained people to do the proper research anymore on patents, because so many of them are getting filed. It's just not possible.
Yep, they just let the court straighten it all out afterwards.
And that's
Well,
what
they even issued a statement several years ago that, when there was a lot of questions being asked about the changes in the patent approval process, that they said that these are our procedures. This is what we go through to decide if it can be granted. However, just the fact that we've granted you a patent does not necessarily mean that if you're ever challenged, or if you have to challenge somebody for infringement, that you're going to prevail in court. It gives you a leg up,
The way
but it's
they
not an
Google
automatic
came
win.
out with the human quality guidelines ratings, the patent office come out with patent rating guideline ratings too, and they've told the patent officers what types of things can and can't be patented. So things like this works exactly like a calculator would normally in the real world, except you use a computer to do it. It can't be patented.
Yeah.
my dad, the last patent my dad got would have been 6 or 7 years ago. And when they went to apply for the patent, the attorney they talked to said, don't do any research at all. Write your patent, submit it, let it go. Because 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to check. They're going to look at this and say, this is a manufactured item. Nobody's going to put forth this kind of effort. Don't worry about it. With the theory being that if somebody else has patented something that's in your patent, they'll find it and they'll let you know. And if they don't, you're good. And so they've been shortcutting the process by not doing any patent research these days.
Which is a major expense.
Yeah.
Was that for that slide-in rack that he? Yeah. Yeah, I would not imagine that would would hold up to real research.
Exactly. Well, and we've done some side research on our own since then, and we found similar devices, but none of them done in the way his is done. You know, from some of the big differences between his, it runs on electric motors instead of hydraulics. You can actually assemble it on the ground and use it to hang itself from the back of your RV instead of needing to have a forklift, and so you can take it off at home, which is a huge bonus for a lot of people. It's just a matter of, the way it works. It's just cool. And, but yeah, they just decided to bypass that whole big giant expense. Good for them.
Yeah, their published standards of what is and is not patentable, I think they violate them a lot, because there's
daily.
There are ideas that should not even be entertained. They should be immediately disqualified as patentable that are getting patents granted.
Yeah.
And I did run across a number of things that Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft all patented that were exactly the same, but they were worded differently. Like the idea of page segmentation and separating segments or blocks of pages. So you have a main content area, you have a main navigation area, link side, yeah.
I would assume in a situation like that, Mr. Counsel, that if all the semantics work out to be considered in the eyes of the court to be equal, wouldn't it simply be the effective date that would be the deciding factor then? Who had it first?
The claims in the patents are the sections that prosecuting attorneys at the patent office look at, and they'll perform searches on those, and they'll use wording that you use in your patent to perform those searches to find patents that might conflict with yours. If you use completely different vocabulary, you're
I'll find
possibly
none.
searching around and finding those.
Aha.
Ah,
If you're Yahoo talking about segmentation, you don't use the word segmentation. You use
Compartmentalization or something. Yeah.
morphage. Right. They use the word isomorphic, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Pretty good example of esoteric wording, eh?
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, if something went to litigation in court, if assuming that everything else was equal, would it be? Is it the effective date then that would be the deciding factor?
The effective date should be the deciding factor.
You would think. Yeah.
It used to be. I remember reading stories in the old days of people racing each other to the patent office.
right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure if it's a myth or not. The one about Einstein, about Edison getting to the patent office 6 hours earlier than his competitor.
Yeah. We'll do that in the morning. Oh man.
And there was a lot of research going on about what materials made the best filament to
Yeah.
burn in a light bulb. And there's a light bulb on a pole at Menlo Park in New Jersey,
Still working.
burning for 106 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
It still works. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't design obsolescence into that one like the ones you buy in the store.
Oh, that's more recent.
More recent invention.
Well, that's the way.
Another.
In the old days, they made things to last. Now they make things to wear out, so you have to replace them.
Well, that's the thing with back in the old days when made in Japan was considered a joke in terms of quality. Back in the 50s and 60s, there was a professor, and I don't remember which university, but one of the major U.S. universities, who wrote a paper about the emerging manufacturing capabilities in Asia. And he said that the Japanese, he had found a paper from some major authority figure in Japan who referred to this design criteria as designed obsolescence. Don't build it to last. If you want to control the market, build it to fail. And they would actually get some finite engineering data as to whether this was going to last 6,000 to 8,000 hours, or 10,000 to 12,000 hours, or 15,000 to 20,000 hours, and change their design criteria accordingly to get that down to that 6,000 to 8,000 hour range, so that they could sell the next version. Kind of like the new edition on a basically unchanged novel, or not a novel, but a reference book.
There was I want to call it a running gun battle back in the 90s with hard drive sizes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you noticed that, every 6 months, Seagate would come out with the next size bigger hard drive. And then a month after that, Western Digital would come out. And then the month after that, they would just continually one-up each other immediately after each other, knowing full well from some of the guys I knew at Western Digital at the time, they already had drives that were 5 to 10 times that size. They simply weren't releasing them because there was no point. It would just eliminate the need for anybody to buy another hard drive.
Exactly. And I have a family member who works at Seagate, and he told me this. I was blown away when they came out with a half gig hard drive. That was, it was affordable. I mean, it wasn't an industrial level thing. It was, for you or I. And he says, hey, we could have put that on the market 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now you can go to Fry's and you can pay for $60 or $80 when you see them on sale, a 2 terabyte.
Well, it's the same thing with the what do you want to call them? The solid state drives.
Oh yeah.
Those were available at size a long time before they actually hit the market.
Yep.
And they're doing the same thing now with those, is they're just doing incremental size upgrades on them I watched one of the YouTube channels. The guy builds servers, and that's what he does on YouTube. And I'm watching him build this like 7 terabyte RAID array video processing server for another YouTuber, and it's like, good Lord, 7 freaking terabytes? How much? And the guy's like, oh, I can fill it. And he showed his storage locker where he's got every hard drive of every video he's ever shot. And it's, plastic bin after plastic bin full of hard drives. And it's like, you have got to be kidding me. God. He goes, yep. He goes, I can't even put it on the cloud because there's no way I can afford the
there ain't that much cloud.
We hear stories from Google about their quantum computer experiments.
All right.
Yeah.
Where they've got quantum computers that can perform calculations that the next level down of advanced computers would take 10,000 years to do.
Yep.
Say, will that be put into a search engine anytime soon?
Not likely.
Not likely.
Yeah, in fact, I've heard the term, of course, quantum computing quite a bit, but I never really looked at it. And it just maybe a month ago that I actually went and read a paper on it, and I was really surprised at the way that they accomplish it in terms of how many bits they can process. It's not just zeros and ones. It's kind of amazing. Got to be amazing, from a hardware standpoint, particularly to be able to build processors that can actually accomplish that. But,
So it's not just a question of on off. It's like 8 stages in between.
Yeah. And which is exponential.
I know.
It's like going, 2 to the 8 to the 8th power. It's just every time you add, it's like when you try to figure out how many combinations of sequences can you get with 12 playing cards. It's 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 all the way to 12. It's a hell of a lot of possible combinations, and they've gone that and more with quantum computing. Whether it's going to be affordable or readily available in our lifetime remains to be seen. But I think if you start pairing that technical capability with the developing capabilities of AI, I think the AI now starts to be something that I can conceive it as being achievable. Not tomorrow.
Asimov's robot.
Not tomorrow,
Need to get that 3 laws of robotics embedded now. Oh my goodness.
If I see a robot that looks like Will Smith, I'll panic.
Yeah. For a while there, we were safe from robots just by going upstairs. Now, not so much.
Yeah, they got some now that can kind of win a gymnastics competition.
Yeah, those videos doing with the guys beating on robots with hockey sticks.
Mhm.
I think there are going to be some robots watching those.
I've also, something else that's been interesting is some of the stuff coming out of Japan. They've been developing some of the very human presentations now. That the accent, the voice inflection is almost undetectable. If you didn't know it was a robot, you might believe it was a person.
Yeah. Well, then you add to that.
They have them in like restaurants or something. I mean, where they're interacting with people in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, I come a long way from the early Disney animatronics.
Yeah.
they're going to have to go back to that to make people feel comfortable around them, I think, or at least do like a jump cab where you only get like the upper half of the torso and the head, so you know it's not a person.
Just give them all red eyes. That won't be creepy at all.
Yeah, just have their eyes tuned like mood rings. Give me, as long as I have my own little pocket EMP, I'm good.
There you go.
So Google came out the project that had been making phone calls to businesses for people. Reservations for things, hotels and restaurants and so on.
Hmm.
What are they called? Duo?
Had not seen that.
They exhibited that at Google I/O this last year, where they could call businesses and order things or make reservations. And the people who were talking to Google, the robot voice, had no idea it wasn't a human being. It was making guttural sounds. It was laughing. It was saying, yeah, doing things like that. It's like that's the future of Google now. The animated assistant, personal assistant that can make calls for you. Book me a hotel room. Book me a flight. And it doesn't go online to do those. It makes phone calls.
Yeah, would that
They have some of the telemarketers where they're opening script. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. My headphone must have slipped or whatever. And they're trying to get you to engage so they get a voice on the other end. So then they can slide you over to a real person easily.
Yeah,
They're
but
trying to be subtle.
my understanding is that the voice assistant that made the reservations, let's use that as an example, is all AI.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they interact with real people as though they were not AI, but a person talking on the phone.
Mm.
Time to watch The President's Analyst again.
I've been getting calls from Google saying to verify an account that's already being verified.
Ooh, I haven't had that one.
Then the guy tried to charge me to verify. And I said, well, you said you were from Google, and I know they don't charge. So why didn't you tell me you were a third party trying to trick me into paying you to do something that Google does for free?
That's like the people, this was a couple of years ago now, that were doing, saying they were from Google and charging people to set up their Google My Business account.
That's what these guys were doing.
Ah.
Yeah.
Still get those phone calls once
So
in a while.
still getting them,
Yep.
okay.
They should have to say we're a third party verifying your listing for Google, not saying we're from Google.
Right.
As I'm concerned,
Right.
that's misrepresentation.
Yeah, it's fraudulent. Doing that.
It's horrible misrepresentation, because I know I was out in the community. Gosh, I can't remember. This was several years ago. And I would go into small businesses to introduce them to Google My Business, and tell them that they could do it for free and I would help them if they wanted or whatever. Anyway, just saying the word Google freaked out these small business owners, because they kept getting all these phone calls from people who said they were Google who
Right.
weren't.
You got painted with their brush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they trying where I got kind of pissed at the guy was when he tried to charge me. I said, "Hold on, you're not from Google." He said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I know Google doesn't charge for these listings. By the way, I've been doing SEO for about 20 years, so I'm kind of up on this stuff a little."
Oh man.
Finally, he kept saying, "Oh, you need this, you need this." And finally I said, "I'm hanging up now," and hung up.
Well, I didn't
If
realize
I'm bored,
we're still doing that.
if I'm bored and have some free time, I sit on the phone and I keep them busy.
There you go.
I walk, I'll be playing solitaire or something while they're saying, now you have to click on this. And I'm like, okay, I clicked on that. And now you have to, okay, I did that. But now it's showing me this. What's this mean? And I'm just making stuff up as I go and just generally having fun because I'm bored. It's like, well, can you get your
they call me and they go, "Oh, your company is SEO by the Sea, so you know all this stuff already." I said, "Yeah."
Yeah, the other thing that kind of upset me too was the guy said that I hadn't verified the account when I know I've gotten the PIN number and put it in, because I was surprised it comes so fast. And he was claiming, "Oh no, you've never filled that in." And I said, "Yeah, I filled it in." "No, you didn't." "Oh, what I had."
Terry, that's a jerk.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't chosen a service area for a reason, because I didn't have one. As far as I'm concerned, it's a web design and SEO company. They don't have a service area. I'll go anywhere. I can do anything anywhere in the world. Why would I limit that? How did you handle that, Doc? You put Australia, North America?
I initially, when I first set up, I tried to, you got the map and you can actually stretch the points, and found that was impossible. So I finally didn't even bother with that. I simply put my my other information in there and left that out, and it planted me on the map right in the middle of Lake Victoria, Kenya. So I said, okay, that's not an option. I mean, right in the flat dab in the middle of the lake. I mean, granted, it's a big lake. It was a decent sized service area, but there's not a whole lot of clients to draw on. But, so I pulled them all. I no longer go with service area because I'm like you. I've got clients in UK and Australia and Canada and Asia and South America. I don't want to be limited, but initially I tried doing it, but I couldn't get an area that would encompass both Australia and the UK, for instance. I just left it blank, and bam, I'm in the middle of Kenya. How it arrived at Kenya, I have no idea.
Well, the thing is, right, another thing that kind of made me wonder was, I'm pretty sure for local listings, they don't include SEO or web development, do they?
You would think that there'd be a good argument made that they shouldn't, but that doesn't necessarily.
I know they did not first. When they first brought local listings in, they did not include web developers or SEOs.
They edited them.
Yeah, they edited them out, yes.
Yeah.
But now they do have them in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a map pack for SEOs.
Oh, okay.
Or web developers.
That must be full of spam, eh?
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, local results for SEO. Oh my God.
I don't know. I'm the only one in my map pack.
Well, yeah.
You're the only human being in your map pack.
I've been seeing SEO companies with 50 reviews. And they're not 50 reviews on the page, but it's in the schema markup, but they have 50 reviews. And I'm expecting them to get penalized. But
Yeah, they should be disappearing shortly.
Yeah, they'll be gone soon.
When it comes to reviews and Google, nothing surprises me. Nothing.
Mhm.
Like I've seen stuff that they wouldn't remove that makes no sense at all. You know,
Yeah.
The people that came from India, their first place they had it as their review was Pearson Airport. After that, it was the train station.
Yeah.
And then it was the university bookstore. And then it was a whole bunch of businesses in Toronto. Right? I figured it out. It's students coming here to go to school and to pay for the trip. They're doing reviews of businesses while they're in Toronto.
Yeah, I could probably get a decent income stream going on reviewing bars.
Problem is you wouldn't be the mystery shopper anymore.
Yeah,
They're gonna go,
everybody
"Hey,
they know who I was. Yeah. The last time I tried that, I ended up doing a review on the emergency room. So I don't know if this is a good plan.
Oh my gosh, the emergency room. Oh, that's hysterical. Well, at least it would be honest. There's a teaching hospital here in Portland, and when you go to visit a physician or have a procedure or whatever, they immediately send you, like, within hours to the next day, they send you a survey about, because they're gathering information, but they're also slanted. It makes me, I hesitate to fill them in, because they ask things like, was the nurse assistant cheerful? I was like, I don't care about cheerful when I'm having a serious medical procedure. I want competence. There's a big difference. And so I don't know. I don't do medical reviews at all. But actually, I used to mystery shop medical appointments a long time ago. But
I helped my mom write a review for one of her cardiac doctors not too long ago.
yeah,
And it started off adorable. He was pretty. He was very pretty. And so she led with that and went on from there.
oh gosh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, well, if you're asking me the wrong questions in your data survey and your questions are slanted, then everything else is slanted as well. Yeah, in my opinion.
Was your surgeon cheerful?
Yeah, was your surgeon cheerful? That's like, what?
I don't know. I was thinking, what?
Yeah, I was out. Yeah.
Really not part of my sort criteria at this moment in time.
I don't know.
I wasn't there. Actually, they do come and talk to you before you go into surgery, but yeah, that is not part of the sort criteria for medical care, in my opinion.
I can see for the administrative processes, for instance, check in, check out, payment process, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I can see them being interested in some feedback there.
Yep.
But yeah, when you start talking about the nurse and the doctor, personality-wise, that just doesn't seem like it's really apropos.
It's not apropos. Well, there's this whole thing in the medical world right now. There was not my whole hospital system, but my neighbor had terrible infection. What's that? The I can't think of the word. The infection that gets in your body from taking antibiotics, and it's antibiotic resistant, so it just goes bonkers. Anyway, he had it in his intestinal tract. And I just happened to be visiting him at the hospital, and this doctor comes in. I think there's an emphasis on doctors being friendly, but nobody knows how to do it. So this doctor comes in and he says, "Hi, I'm Dr. Smith, and I'm your surgeon if you need surgery." And I'm like, what and it's nobody had said, maybe you'll need surgery. And he came in and he sat down on the bed, and I was ready to slap this guy, get up and act like a professional. And he's going on with this cheerful, happy bit. And I'm just like, this is not reassuring.
At a billing rate of $7,500 an hour, I'd be cheerful too.
Well, yeah, but whoa, that is not how you instill confidence in a terrified patient. So I don't
That's
know.
okay for new students at a kindergarten, yeah, but not
Right, exactly.
My mom just had an artificial heart put in, really just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And the difference between her doctor in Indianapolis and the doctor back home that gave up on her is staggering.
Yeah.
Between the difference in care, how the doctor behaves, how vested the doctor is in the process. I mean, and this guy was, I have not met too many doctors who were at that level, but he was also very casual. He came in, he sat down, put his hand on her hand to, reassure her. And then when she told him some things about what the other doctors had done and said after he took over care, he came unhinged. He's like, "Oh, no. They don't get to make any of these decisions for you," and stopped what he was doing and got on the phone right then and there and chewed ass. It was wonderful to watch.
Oh, that's incredible. That's fantastic.
And he called the doctor that ran a whole bunch of tests and got her all worked up over something that was totally unrelated. And he got him on the phone, right? He's because he called that doctor's office and said, he said, "I need to talk to this doctor and I need to talk to him now." And so they got the doctor on the phone and he just went on a tear. And it's like, holy crap. And
wow.
I was literally shocked at the difference in medical care, especially when you compare it to like where I'm at, where if the doctor gets to spend more than about 3.5 minutes with you, it's unusual.
Yeah.
Because they are so overwhelmed. Because we're in such a rural area, there are no doctors left. Our doctors where we're at, we've got 2, and they rotate from office to office. So if you want to see Dr. Jennings on a Tuesday, you got to go to Henderson. If you want to see him on Thursday, then you got to go to Parsons. And that's just what it is out here. And I don't think people who live in cities quite understand what's happened to healthcare, because they seem to think it's bad where they're at. Holy crap, try living out in the country. We got hospitals that can't even stay open.
You probably have more vets available than you do doctors.
Probably true, yeah.
And then you add into the fact it's like you go to a hospital that's in network and find out none of the doctors are. It's like, wait, how is that even possible?
Yeah, no kidding.
My God.
Because I went to an emergency room at midnight for something that happened and got this bill that was 3 times the hospital bill from the doctor. And the insurance company's like, "Well, we aren't going to pay that because that doctor's out of network." I'm like, well, how am I supposed to know that? I went to the hospital. You told me to go
They
here.
don't tell you. They don't tell you that. And the other thing is that I've heard many people with similar stories about what was covered by the insurance company and what was not, because the doctors were out of network, and that the patients often have no control and or knowledge of, say, the anesthesiologist who comes in for surgery who's out of network, but you're in a network hospital. And who's going to be thinking about that when you're thinking about, having major surgery? Reviewing anesthesiologist insurance coverage.
I have also heard of instances where there were some medications or treatments or apparatus that was used in a situation that the coverage was denied.
Right.
And again, I'm not a doctor. How would I know that this particular medication versus that one is not going to be paid?
Right.
One of the things that's happening out here, and specifically in very rural, remote areas, is a for-profit company will go in and buy up a bunch of doctors' practices and the local hospital, and then they will play the game like this, where the hospital's in network, the doctors aren't. The doctors are in network, but the hospital isn't. And they'll run that for a few years to get everybody all worked up, and then they'll introduce their own insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Look, we can solve your problem, right?
yeah.
All you got to do is switch your insurance to us, and now everything's in network. Well, the minute you do that, they shut the hospital down because now they can't afford the hospital because the profit margins aren't there anymore. So now you're kicked to one of their other hospitals in a bigger city. For me to get to like a real hospital is over an hour drive. It is ridiculous how far I've got to go. And if I want emergency care after 9 p.m., it's hit or miss. It is just part of what it's like living where I live, where when you live in a city, you don't have that problem, at least not to the extent that we have out here. So when people tell me I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to healthcare, I get a little worked up.
Yeah. Well, it's true in big cities too, because so much of what happens with people as patients is determined by insurance companies rather than by physicians.
So we've got
and
this
the people making those decisions at the insurance company have little to zero knowledge of what they're making decisions about. That's
Yeah, really.
There was a time, a long time ago, when you actually had medical decisions being reviewed by someone with a medical background.
Correct.
If not a physician themselves, on staff with the insurer, and that stopped happening probably a couple of decades ago.
One of the things that happened out here about 5 or 6 years ago is the air transport, because that's a big thing out here in farm country.
Oh, right.
They need, the only way to get you to a hospital fast is a helicopter. Well, a helicopter ride's going to run you $60,000.
60?
Easy. Yes.
Wow.
$60,000 to fly out to your farm, land, load you up, and fly you into town. It's going to be about $60,000. Or you can donate to their program, and if you donate over, let's say, $200 or $250 a year, you get put in this other category where your helicopter ride's only going to be $12,000 with no out of pocket. And it's like, so everybody in the area pays the $250. Everybody does, and the helicopter might come here twice a year. So they've got an alternative revenue stream of a couple $100,000 a year that they don't have to do anything for. And it's just amazing how this stuff's been happening.
Virtually every aspect of medicine in the United States is so corrupt in terms of allowing them to artificially inflate the prices of medication, of treatments, of things like that, and they're protected by their cronies because, Big Pharma, they donate 9 zeros worth a year, if not more. So, they've bought an awful lot of senators.
And it's like, I was talking to the generation above, dad, grandparents, and stuff like that. And they specifically target all of this back in the early 70s when they started allowing for-profit hospitals. Because before then, all hospitals were nonprofit run by the county.
Yep.
It's just what it was. And somebody went, well, let's do a for-profit hospital because that would be better.
Yeah, we can give better care.
And that was the trigger that started all of this. Was somebody went, you mean we can make money doing this? We don't have to do it just because we want to help people?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The whole system is broken.
It's very broken.
Well, guys, we're at the top of the hour, so I think we're going to call it a show for today. Thank you all very much.
Good to see everybody.
Everybody take care. Thank you. Bye now.
Have a good week.
Bye.